On December 30th, 2025, Spencer Tepe didn't show up for work. His colleagues immediately knew something wasn't right. A few hours later, the Ohio dentist's body was discovered, shot to death in his Wineland Park, Columbus home. His wife, Monique Tepe, had also been killed, though the couple's 2 young children were unharmed. The holiday season killing of an attractive couple in the prime of their lives made national news almost immediately. For 2 weeks, podcasters, YouTubers, Redditors, and TikTokers researched and speculated. This outlet, the Columbus Dispatch, competed with not only local journalists, but also CNN, Fox News, Court TV, and more, following leads and seeking out breaks in the case. Then, on January 10th, a major development. Dr. Michael McKee, Monique Tepe's ex-husband, was wanted for murder. He was arrested that day, and plans are now in the works for him to be brought to Ohio. I'm Eleanor Kennedy, Digital Director at the Columbus Dispatch, joined today by Bethany Bruner, our courts reporter, who's been all over the case. Thanks for joining me, Bethany.
Thanks for having me, Eleanor.
So it's Wednesday, January 14th. We have posted 2 stories today on this case, which is pretty typical for the past couple weeks. So first off, can you just catch us up, give us the highlights on what our latest reporting has been?
So the latest developments, Columbus Police had a press conference just a few hours ago from when we're recording this. And Chief Elaine Bryant gave us some additional updates on the investigation. There's not a lot new that we learned, but we did get a couple key pieces of information. The first is that after McKee was arrested, they did a search warrant at his Chicago condo where he was living. They found multiple firearms there, and one of those firearms has been preliminarily linked through a national ballistics database to evidence from the Tepe crime scene. So there is that connection now. We also know that he invoked his right to counsel and did not speak with investigators after he was arrested. Earlier, before the press conference, we had learned that McKee is not going to be brought back quite as quickly from Illinois as we thought. Initially, it was believed that he would be brought back this week, but there have been some logistical issues with getting the scheduling done with the company that assists with these interstate transports. So it will more likely now be next week that he is brought back to Franklin County.
Got it. And so that's obviously the kind of next major development that we're expecting. What else are we watching for?
So we're looking for any piece of evidence at this point that can be released by investigators. There's obviously still a lot going on in terms of the active investigation. They're looking at electronic devices. They're talking to friends and family, and those lead to new leads that they're tracking down. So there's a lot of missing pieces still to this investigation. The biggest question that everyone, I think, still has is why? What prompted this couple to be killed? What may have triggered, if McKee is the one who did it, what triggered him to do that? So that's an answer we may never fully know the whole truth about. But investigators are looking for all those little pieces. When he's brought back here to Franklin County, he will have a hearing here, a bond will be set, and then a grand jury will start looking at the case. So we're looking at an indictment, or potential indictment, within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I would think.
Well, that brings us to where we are today, but let's, rewind the clock a bit. What do we now know for sure, as much as we can know for sure, about what happened on December 30th?
Yeah, there's a lot that we have been able to solidify in the last couple of days that we had thought might be the case, but we now know is the case. To the best of our knowledge and to the best of police knowledge, without McKee talking to them, the video that was released on January 5th of a person of interest walking in an alley behind the Tepe home near and around the time when they believe the homicides occurred is Michael McKee. We also know that sometime shortly before the homicides, we don't know exactly when, how long before, McKee, a vehicle that has been tracked to McKee and found in Rockford, Illinois, where he was arrested, is seen on surveillance cameras in the area of the Tepe home, and then that vehicle left shortly after they believe the homicides occurred. So we know that there's a vehicle that has been traced to him that was at the scene. There's video of a person that they believe to be McKee walking near the scene. We know that both of the Tepes were shot multiple times. There were casings recovered at the scene. We know their children were physically unharmed, and today Chief Bryant said that there's no indication that he had any interaction with the kids. At least at this point, they're both under the age of 5, so there may not be the most reliable eyewitnesses. But hopefully they believe that they didn't see anything that would have caused any issues for them, hopefully.
Got it. And McKee, so we know he grew up around here, right? What else can you tell folks about him?
Yes, so he was from the Zanesville area originally, went to Bishop Rosecrans, played football there, seems to have been a very good student. From what we can see, he was on the honor roll, played football, got honorable mention all state honors. He then went to Ohio State for undergrad and medical school. In 2015, he and Monique Tepe got married. Less than 2 years later, in May of 2017, she filed for divorce here in Franklin County. At the time, McKee's address was listed as being in Roanoke, Virginia, where he was doing a surgical residency program through a clinic there. The divorce was settled relatively quickly, less than a month after the filing. I think it was like 27 days or something. They had the final divorce decree. They already had a separation agreement in place at the time that they filed. So that there's no indication through those court records that there was any sort of animosity between the two at that time. There's no alimony, there's no spousal support, they don't share any children. So there's nothing that would have necessarily tied them together, which is one of the mysteries in this case, is what level of communication, if any, did Monique Tepe and Michael McKee have after that relationship ended. But, and we only know what we can see through the court records. We don't know if it truly was amicable or not. We can only know what the documents tell us. So, we know that about him. And then in the last couple of years, he was working in Las Vegas as a surgeon there, a vascular surgeon. There's a pending medical malpractice lawsuit there, and he's one of several doctors that are named as defendants in that case, which is unrelated to the homicides from everything we can tell. He also has valid medical licenses in California and Illinois. He's practicing in Rockford, Illinois, right now, from what we know.
On the divorce, one thing that a few people online have noticed was that there was a small filing in it this summer. Can you clarify for listeners what that is?
Yeah. From what we can tell, it appears it was a clerical issue, that there was a case that it was either two numbers transposed or it was the case number before or after, and it got mistakenly filed in their case. Looking at the documents, whatever it was has been stricken from the record. They took care of that pretty quickly, but it does show up there still. Mm-hmm. But it was finalized in 2017, and there hasn't been anything since.
Got it. Yeah, that's just, one of many things that you'll see on Reddit and everywhere right now. People are pouring over a lot of details. So what do we know beyond her marriage, her brief marriage to Michael McKee, about Monique Tepe?
We know she was a stay-at-home mom. Her family, the Tepe family that has been speaking on behalf of Monique's family and Spencer's family, they said in the obituary that she just had this kind smile, big heart. We know she has a master's in education from Ohio State. She played soccer in high school. She was a local person as well, went to Thomas Worthington, played soccer in high school. The team had some great success while she was there and a part of it. And we really haven't heard anybody say anything negative about her. She's just somebody that lit up every room she was in, just drew people to her, very positive, very devoted to her kids. Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned the relative that's sort of been speaking on behalf of the family. He talked a little bit to another media outlet about what she had said about McKee. Can you share a little bit of that?
Yeah, earlier this week, he'd made some comments to another outlet and said that Monique had spoken at various times throughout the time that he had known her about being worried about her mental health should McKee be around. She talked about there being emotional abuse in the relationship. So it's what police have said is that there's no record of any sort of filing in terms of a report that there was any concern about anything physical or any harassment or stalking to the point that police got involved. So we don't know quite how recently those concerns may have been raised by her, but she had made those comments, in gatherings over the years.
And then Spencer, his work as a dentist, as a well-known dentist in the community, was a big subject of some of the early headlines about this. What do we know about him? And if you can kind of connect that also to the way that this all was, discovered that first day on the 30th.
Absolutely. So Spencer was a dentist. He practiced in Athens, in southeastern Ohio at a practice there. We know he is from the Cincinnati area originally, I believe Mason, north of Cincinnati, and went to Ohio State for dental school. Ohio State has one of the few dental programs in the country, so that's not all that surprising that he then stayed up here. And he worked in, I believe, Ashland for a little bit of time, and then was in Athens. And it was the coworkers at the Athens practice where he was working that first raised the alarm. The owner of that practice had called police right around 9 a.m. that morning and said, hey, we haven't been able to get a hold of him for a couple hours. We can't get a hold of his wife either. And that's really weird because this is not like them. Can somebody go check on them? And police did send somebody. Unfortunately, they went to the wrong address on the wrong street. We don't really know why that happened. And that officer did check at that house. He knocked on the doors, went into the backyard, knocked on the back door. But, it wasn't the home. And there is no indication that had he gone to the Tepe home at that time, it would have changed the end result in the Tepes dying. Mm-hmm. They're believed to have already been deceased at that time. But then about 40 minutes after that initial welfare check, a couple of the friends of the Tepes had gone to the house themselves. They were still concerned, still hadn't been able to get in touch with them, and ultimately got into the house. We're not quite sure how. They could hear the kids crying inside, and that made them think something was really wrong. And on one of the 911 calls that was made, you can hear them say they found Spencer's body, looked to be blood. It was in the bedroom upstairs, and you can hear somebody saying, stay downstairs. So unfortunately, that for those folks, that's what they found in that home, and that launched this whole investigation.
Mm-hmm. On the welfare check, another question I've seen come up online, do we know from the body cam video, from what the police have told us, if he was given the wrong address by dispatch or if he went to the wrong place, or is that just still not clear?
We don't really know. So on the body cam, he has an address on a Post-it note that he was at a substation and left to go do that welfare check. And the address that he went to was about a quarter mile away. It was like 2 streets over. So it wasn't like he went to the opposite side of town or something. It was relatively close. And I believe he went to a 1417 and their address was a 1411. And I occasionally can write a 1 and a 7 that look very similar. So I don't know if that was user error in terms of him miswriting it down, or the dispatcher giving him incorrect information, or some combination of the two of those things. We don't really know.
Got it. I just know that's another thing that's popped up a lot in chatter around this case. Yes. Well, let's see, Bethany, what have I not asked you about on this case that you think would be valuable to chat about?
I think the only other thing that we haven't really touched on is like what comes next for the criminal side. And we did touch on it briefly, but we've seen a lot. He's charged with both murder and aggravated murder right now, as it stands in Franklin County Municipal Court. It was initially 2 charges of murder. The following day, they filed the aggravated murder, which is an elevated charge in Ohio. The aggravated murder charge alleges that premeditation, that it was planned out. A targeted attack is what Chief Bryant called it today. So we know that those are both going to be at that initial hearing. They're both still open case numbers. When the grand jury considers this case, when it gets to that point, they will have the option of choosing both of those. They can charge multiple theories of the same crime on the same indictment, but they also could choose to go with one or the other based on what the evidence they have at that point in time is. They can include other charges at that point, burglary, or if there's something else that we don't know about that happened, could also be included in that. And the process after that indictment will take a while. It's not as simple as, 6 months from now we'll be in a trial. It will probably take a few years to get to that point. There's a lot of evidence to go through, a lot of legal maneuvering that will be happening after that.
And that aggravated murder, that is what opens up the possibility that this could be a death penalty case. Is that right?
It does. So under Ohio law, aggravated murder is the only crime that can be charged as a capital offense. It has to meet a set of specific requirements, fall within a set of requirements. This case is statutorily eligible. It's a killing of multiple people. So it would qualify under the law as a death penalty case, but that will be a decision that the prosecutor's office will have to make as to whether or not they're going to pursue that if they think there's evidence that would support that. And frankly, whether the community would be willing to, if there would be people in the community willing to vote for the death penalty on a jury if they were selected. There hasn't been an appetite for it in Franklin County. We haven't indicted anyone on capital offenses since 2019.
In the state, obviously Governor DeWine, who probably would not still be governor at the time this were
probably not.
But there has not been an appetite at a statewide level, which you can read more about from our project in the fall about the death penalty in Ohio for anyone interested. All right. Well, thank you so much. I think this does a great job sort of getting people who have been getting snippets of this case or otherwise kind of level set on where things stand today. You can continue getting updates on it in the Columbus Dispatch as things go forward. Thank you, Bethany.
Thanks, Eleanor.